topics of
Recording
interest
in progress.
that issues that impact communities of color a little bit more intensely, perhaps. And we've been running this series for several years now. We get to do this on a quarterly basis. Today, we're going to be tackling the topic of keeping capital in the community, ways that we can support one another and in a professional manner by building our communities around. I just want to talk a little bit about the history of the Minority Business Network through the West Hartford Chamber. We launched in the beginning of 2020. The purpose of this committee is to increase visibility of minority-owned and represented businesses, provide a discussion forum for the unique challenges faced by minority professionals, and to increase the diversity of chamber membership to ensure that our organization accurately reflects the community that we serve. I would like to start by introducing Stephen King Jr. Stephen King Jr. is one of the co-founders of the Minority Business Network. He was there from its inception. He also sits on the board of directors for the West Hartford Chamber of Commerce. He is a serial entrepreneur and seasoned business professional. He's also a renowned entertainer. And on top of that, he also sits on the South Windsor Town Council, where he is currently the minority leader. Stephen King Jr., take it away.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kate, for that introduction. Yeah, Stephen King Jr., um, one of the creative founders of the Minority Business Network that is hosted through the West Hartford Chamber. I want to thank all of our panelists for being here, but more specifically, I want to thank you guys for listening in because we're going to have some intense conversation, but also some real conversation, especially as it relates to um, keeping our businesses afloat, but more importantly, keeping the capital in our community. And by community, you can take that however you want. However, what me is for our young Black and Brown people and saying, okay, you know what? What can we do to make sure that not only our businesses are created, but that they thrive in a positive manner? So we have three tremendous panelists right here, and we're just going to, as I like to say in any one of my introductions, we're just going to double dutch this in. This isn't a rap, 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 rap. This isn't that type of conversation. And hopefully, between the four of us, we can really have a, as if nobody is here but us conversation in regards to not only your expertise individually, but also how can we come collectively together and say, look, these are the things that I've learned to help others so that they can be where they want to be, especially in a positive and financially stable manner. So, without any further ado, let me get into this. Hold on, let me get my papers correctly. Yes, okay. The bios. So we're gonna go in alphabetical order so nobody gets their feelings hurt and want to know why such and such happened. So first off, Miss Tanisha Baptiste. Tanisha, just give everybody a wave. Okay. So Tanisha Baptiste joined the U.S. Small Business Administration on August 14th, 2014. She serves as the lead outreach and marketing specialist and veteran business development officer. She leverages her expertise to support small businesses and veterans alike. Throughout her tenure at the SBA, Tanisha has held several roles, including lender relations specialist, economic development specialist, and administrative officer. She showcases her versatility and dedication to the organization's mission. She has a combined 23-year tenure in civil service. Now, prior to her tenure at the FBA, Tanisha held roles at the Department of Veterans Affairs, the National Labor Relations Board, where she honed her skills in human resources and bargaining unit electoral processes, respectively. Her dedication to serving her country extends beyond her civilian career. 10 years active duty service in the U.S. Army, she brings a unique perspective and leadership acumen to her current endeavors. She holds an MBA from the University of Connecticut, underscoring her commitment to continuous learning and professional development. She also holds an FAC-C professional certification, demonstrating her proficiency in federal acquisition. Now, outside all these professional commitments, deeply engaged in her community, volunteering her time, her skills to make a positive impact with various local and national organizations. Put your hands together, Miss Tanisha. What's going on, girl? All right. Next, Mr. Elbert Gray III. I apologize. Elbert Lee Gray III. A dynamic entrepreneur, educator, community leader based in Connecticut. He's the president and owner of Hallmark Total Tech Incorporated, where he leads staffing and workforce solutions with a focus on excellence and innovation. Elbert is also the founder of ELG Firearms Service and Instruction LLC. It's the first full-time gun store owned by a person of color in Connecticut. He has over 20 years of experience in retail, logistics, staffing. Elbert holds an MBA from Walden University, teaches business courses as an adjunct instructor at Goodwin University and the University of Bridgeport. A lifelong learner and deep instructor, he's passionate about empowering others through education, entrepreneurship, and community engagement. He's a proud father of four, a member of Alpha Phi Fraternity Incorporated, and serves on the board for the Office of Governmental Accountability for the state of Connecticut. His personal mantra: think big, start small, move quickly. Put your hands together for Mr. Elbert Ray. I'm acting like we got a studio audience here. But anyway, last but certainly not least, the Samantha Williams, FF. What's going on, Sammy? So she is a distinguished multi-award winner entrepreneur with 20 plus years of experience in executive level, corporate, and professional writing and digital content design. She's also recognized business coach, committed to the advancement of the Black community. Now, Sammy is an astute businesswoman and serial entrepreneur, launching several companies, including 628 Digital Design, a certified B Corp and full service marketing agency. She provides business coaching, grant sourcing, and writing, and business certification support. 628 Digital Design is a federal contractor, certified small, minority, Black, disadvantaged, and woman-owned small business. Sammy's also the founder and president of CMWP Foundation Incorporated. It's a nonprofit entrepreneurial support organization empowering Black and minority men, women, and children entrepreneurs. CMWP also has a membership with over 200 Black women professionals. The collaboration of minority women professionals. Sammy is a board member for the Greater New Haven Chamber of Commerce and Be Local CT, and is an advisory council member at the Harvard Business Review. Sammy earned a master's in healthcare administration from the University of New Haven and a bachelor's in business administration from New York College. Well, from York College. Shout out to York College. Sammy's a certified Six Sigma Green Belt, pursuing a Black Belt and a Notary Public. She can do all that stamping for y'all too. Put your hands together. What's going on, Miss Sammy? Okie doke. So, y'all, this is not that type of situation whereby we need to keep our mics off unless people are walking into the, your room or something like that. It's like a double dutch situation. So we can all jump on each other, somebody get out the rope, somebody jump in the rope, get in where you fit in. Yeah, I do have a couple of questions, but hopefully this conversation will really be one that takes on a life of its own. So that being said, unless somebody has something that they want to jump in and say first, shout out to the reader, myself. All right, cool. One of the questions that we have, especially as regards to keeping capital in our community, and we can start with this one here from a member of our Minority Business Network. How and where can we tap into community finances, especially at a time when global resources are becoming more expensive, unreliable due to tariffs, and delayed shipments from outside the US? What a lot of us are seeing are a lot of folks scrambling to find local resources because many have become reliant on what used to be cheaper options abroad. Now they don't know who's available. They don't know who's reliable in their own neighborhoods. So how can we find, and then how can we tap into those different resources? And Tanisha, just because you're at the top of my jaw, why don't we just start with you, and then anybody else can just jump in as we go.
In terms of financing, access to capital has been the topic of conversation for years in our communities. One thing that we've implemented is every year we do a Black Funding Forum where we actually bring Black bankers and things like that, people from different types of financial institutions to come up and speak with the community so that they can see that funds are available to all of them. One thing that we have to start with is, are you prepared for the capital, right? So a lot of times, like, well, I bank with Bank of America. So as a business owner, I walked into Bank of America. I've had my checking and savings with them for 20 years, and they won't give me a loan for my business. Well, Bank of America, you have to do your research. Are they business friendly? So you have to start with that. You have to find what lenders are small business friendly. The SBA has a list here in Connecticut. If you go to our district office website, we do publicly release our loan volume report. That tells you exactly who is out there lending to the public. Small business loans, the number of loans, dollar amount of loans. But then there's something else. If you're not ready to walk into a big bank, and it could be for many reasons, you may not have collateral, you may not have sufficient credit, you may be a startup, you may be in a high risk industry like opening a brand new restaurant. That's always the one that people always think of as high risk. And you walk into a lender, they're really going to be apprehensive about giving the funding to you. So we do have intermediaries called microlenders throughout the state. So HEDCO, if you're familiar, if you're in the Hartford area, the Hartford Economic and Development Corporation, they're one of our micro lenders. We have Community Investment Corporation out of Hamden. They're one of our micro lenders. You've got CEDF, the Community Economic Development Fund out of Meriden. Pursuit Lending. If you go to our website, we have a full list of all of our microloans intermediaries. They lend up to $50,000 for people who may not otherwise be big bank ready. So that's a starting point. If you're a startup business, you may not need more than $50,000. And we're definitely going to advise against getting more money than you actually need, especially in the form of a loan, because you've got to pay it back. And yeah, people say nobody wants to lend us money. Yeah, everybody wants to lend money, but they want to make sure that they can get that money back, right? So that's the important thing to know. And we also have one of our resource partner, our Women's Business Development Council. They do small grant programs available for small businesses. Many of their grants are for women-owned businesses, but some, depending on the city or town that you're in, they may have specialized programs for any business that's headquartered in those towns. So you have to do your research to see what options are out there. But most importantly, you have to make sure that you have a strong business plan, that your finances are in order. And if they're not, I say nothing's a hard stop. They're soft stops. So if you need to work on your credit, take a beat, work on your credit. If you need to build your current working capital, build it. Nothing's a hard stop.
So, and again, you guys can jump in at any minute. It's interesting only because now, Kate, we can make sure that we put in the websites that Tanisha is talking about. That way you guys can just keep listening. This is being recorded, so you can come back to it. But all of those different websites that are going to be mentioned throughout the course of our conversation are going to be in the chat. Elle, just because you're in a line of business, dog, that a lot of banks or maybe even payment processors are not going to touch. You're selling guns. How did you get access to your fund, especially as the first Black gun owner in the business and all that type of stuff that's out of East Hartford? How'd you work around those stigmas?
I got it. Thank you, Steve, for that question. No, I'm sorry. I'll use my regular voice. So I love what Tanisha was just saying, because a big thing for me is start small. And to your question, Steve, I've been kicked out of banks. I have had business processing centers kick us out once they find out that you're a gun store. So I know what it's like to struggle to get it. And once you get it, and people have opinions or something happens politically, you lose that and you have to start all over again. I've been there. That's kind of how I got connected to the chamber. But for me, it was start small. And Tanisha was just referring to that, like, okay, if you're not going to get $100,000 for your business, what do you really need, and what gets you started? And one of the things for me, I'll just speak to my own experience, is that I've been an instructor for 15 years. So the biggest part of my business, or the most profitable part is the instruction. So I was making money and putting it aside before I got a commercial space, and then having the proper business licenses, making sure you're registered with the state, having the correct paperwork with your bank, and then having income that shows that you're generating or moving money. I say making money and moving money are two different things, but now I was able to get access to credit. Right. And then I was able to climb my way up from having, for this store, 10 items for sale and now we have 250 a couple years later. So start small. By starting small, working on the things that are important right now, and then showing that you can generate income, uh, move money, starts to open up credit and just opens up a lot of possibilities as you move forward.
Okay. Sammy, what you got? Because I know for you've been doing this for a little while.
I've been doing
So
it for a while, going on 10 years in business for 628. And I think it comes down to diversifying your funding options.
mm,
Tanisha talked about the loans, there's lines of credit, there's grants. You mentioned the WBDC. One bank in particular that I refer everybody to is Liberty Bank. Um, Liberty
okay.
is great when it comes to small business banking. They have completely free bank accounts. I follow the profit first methodology where I have multiple bank accounts set up for both CMWP and 628, and we pay $0 a month to have those accounts open. But it's also coming down to having relationships with your bankers. So shout out to Tanner over at Liberty Bank. I can connect y'all later. But Tanner, call him T
Yeah.
Dog. Tanner
Yep.
is amazing. He reaches out to me and he's like, Sammy, how's your line of credit going? Do you need more money? I'm like, yeah, give me more money, Tanner. But thinking about the lines of credit versus the loans, because those are two different funding vehicles, right?
Mm. Go
Liberty.
into that. Go into that before you step. What? Yeah. What did that mean?
So with the line of credit, so say you have a $50,000 line of credit.
Hmm.
You can borrow anything up to that 50,000 from your line of credit. In banking terms, you just transfer it to your bank account, your checking account, savings account, whatever you're using. You're gonna pay interest, and you're gonna have to pay back whatever that portion is that you borrowed from your line of credit. So if you borrow 5,000, that's what you're gonna pay interest on. Versus a business loan or any other loan, if you get a $50,000 loan, once it's yours, you're paying interest on that 50,000.
Mm.
You're expected to pay back that 50,000. So that's some of the difference there. With Liberty, they actually offer a really good banking program where you can get up to $250,000. It's based on your income, but you could get up to $250,000 zero docs. So that's no documentation needed, no P&L, no business plan, none of the above. The only thing you need is to show that you're registered with the state of Connecticut. That's the only thing they look for. I'm telling you, Liberty Bank is where you need to be. Right. So then you also have the grants. Right now in the state of Connecticut, there is a DECD grant. I'm connected with the Community Foundation for Greater New Haven, but there's a grant, the New Haven Equitable Entrepreneurial Ecosystem Grant, NHE3, and that's available to any business owner in the state of Connecticut. Startups, they're giving about 2,500. If you show that
Mm.
you do some training, you work with some of their resource partners like the WBDC, CMWP, Collab, Reset, you're eligible to come back and get more, where they're giving about 6 to 8,000. So if you get the 2,500, you can come back and get up to another 4,000 or so. Established businesses, they're getting the average of 6 to 8,000, and that's a pretty easy grant. The money is
Okay.
here, the money's available, and that's one thing is, yes, the government has been taking back some funding and some money, but for the grant funding that's already been distributed, it's there.
Hmm.
So take advantage of it. And then Tanisha was mentioning some of the other alternative banking methods, right? We have the CDFIs in the state where you can work, they work with you. Depending on your credit score, depending on where you are in business, they may require business plans. Not everybody does.
Right.
But you want to check with the CDFI that you're connected with and see what they can offer you. The state also offers the Boost program. That's a loan. The Boost program was they'll give you a lower percentage rate for your interest on your loan
Right.
if you meet certain demographics. And then they set you up with lenders through that Boost program. So I think it really comes back to diversifying your funding
Hmm.
network and building relationships. It's so important. Don't wait. Don't. I know everybody says it, but it's true. Don't wait until you need money to go into the bank and be like, "Hey, girl. Hey, how you doing?" You should have those relationships established already.
Man, wisdom right there. I want to come back to something that that you said, that there is a difference between, I wrote it down, making money versus moving money. What do you mean by
Uh, so profit, like right now is a tough season in retail. So you're
Okay.
not necessarily going for the margin on a lot of the stuff. You want to turn money so that you can uh pay your bills, meet all your commitments, make payroll. So it's different from, let's say, going into the fourth quarter where you know your margin's going to be a lot better. So you can have a business and let's say you make 100,000, but what's the
Yep.
profit on that, right? If you make 30% on it, that's awesome. If you make 5% on it, you're not as profitable as you want to be. But if you can show in one of your business plans, and your taxes, when you look for advances, credits, and different options, having $100,000 that moves through you is a benefit versus not having it. Does that make sense?
A little bit. So are you saying that, I mean, I'm not gonna put words in your mouth, but you're not robbing Peter to pay Paul in order to establish credit. Is that what you're suggesting? Or is that what is kind of the,
That
to show that I am viable?
Yeah, listen, there's a lot of options out there, but sometimes you have to make it work when you're in the position or you need to. So what I'm saying is for my first year in the gun business, I think we
Yes.
did $125,000, right?
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, I didn't expect that number, but okay, that's cool. I didn't make that, right? But by showing that $125,000 moved through in our first year in business, it gave us more credit. So I remember when I first started, I think the bank offered me a credit card for $2,500, and
Yeah.
I'm like, that's gonna get my gas for the month, right?
Right. Right.
But within that, after that first year, that number was 10,000. And then you have credit, your credit score goes up. If you pay your bills, you got to pay your bills. Uh, when your credit score starts to raise, that also gives you better options to look for money out there. So when you're starting out, you listen, a lot of times you don't get paid, but you have to find ways to do it. So moving money is showing that the business is making money. Let me say, showing that the business is moving money is a benefit, especially versus someone who's just starting and they're like, I'm not doing anything right now. We're not making.
Okay.
We're starting dry, right?
Yep. Yep.
I was able to show off the back that no, I'm making $2,500 to $5,000 a month. That's already going into a business account before I had to go to something bigger.
Okay. 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 Tanisha, I know you was writing stuff and typing stuff, and I appreciate you putting all that stuff in the chat. Uh, is there something in regards to, especially for those minority-owned businesses? And I want to kind of shift because I did get this question from somebody else. How do you go about getting that level of certification or that designation? Is there, and I know Sammy, you're part of that as well, and more importantly, does it really help to grow your business to say that you're a minority owned business?
So I'm going to answer that, but I want to make a point about credit first.
Let's
So
go. Yep, get in.
So people ask all the time, well, do they look at just the credit of my business or do they look at my personal credit as well? The answer is going to be both. And if you are in business with your homie, you need to know what your homie's credit is too, because they're going to be looking at their credit as well.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to have really transparent conversations with your entire team. You also need to,
Does that include spouses?
so with the spouses, unless they have at least a 10%, some banks 20% stake in the business, they're not looking at their credit. But that's different when we talk about collateral, right? When they say, do I have to put my house as collateral if me and my spouse both own the house? The answer is still going to be yes. So you need to have that conversation with your spouse about the house or any of your other personal assets, because personal guarantees are going to be a requirement for any lending that you do. So you need to have honest conversations with your team, but you also need to have honest conversations with your banker, because things happen, right?
Mhm.
Medical expenses happen, divorces happen, COVID happens. So if you have an honest conversation with somebody about, well, my credit may be a 620 right now, but this is what happened. And these are the steps that I'm making toward improving that, right? So they want to hear those stories, because a lot of times we think, well, they're looking for any reason to say no to us.
Right.
And that's not always, does it happen sometimes? Absolutely, it does. But it doesn't happen all the time. There are lenders out there that want to say yes, and they're looking for reasons to say yes. So they want to hear your story. They want to hear the passion you have in your business. They want to hear what your background is, and all of these things, how they can make the deal happen, right?
Okay.
So
Okay.
now pivoting into certifications, which is very separate from lending or anything like that. So for our purpose at the SBA, and the same with the Department of Administrative Services for the state of Connecticut, getting your minority business enterprise certification or small business enterprise certification with the state, as well as getting any of the certifications we offer at the SBA, those are for the purpose of procurement, for contracting. So the state has what's called set-asides, and the federal government has what's called set-asides as well. So 23% of all federal spending dollars, prime dollars, need to be set aside for small business. So I always talk to people in dollars, and I like to use big dollars because it's more impactful when you use it that way. So federal government approaching spending of $600 billion per year, 23% of that, $138 billion that are set aside for small businesses. So does it matter? Is it important? I say yes, it is, right? If you're looking to grow your business and figure out ways to generate more revenue, the government buys everything. Everything. I tell people, if you look at that backdrop, our SBA logo, if you've been around us for a while, that's not what our logo used to look like the first time the current administration was in office, right? Our logo did not look like that. So at that time, our administrator was Linda McMahon. She came in and said, SBA needs to refresh. So they redid our logo. That was a government contract. That's graphic design. That was a federal government contract, right? So the federal government buys everything, goods, services, products, all of that. So 23% set aside for small business, 5% set aside for socially and economically disadvantaged businesses, as well as participants in the 8A program. 5% set aside for women-owned small businesses, 5% set aside for service-disabled veteran-owned small businesses, 3% set aside for businesses that are located in a hub zone.
Okay. So that's why I
And
said
the
you got
state
your
has their
fingers
own.
and everything.
Yes. And I say just have them. Even if you don't get it, just having it there. Sometimes you'll meet philanthropists that say, you know what, like Sammy, she's a B Corp. So if you're familiar with what a B Corp is, they have a social aspect to their business, right? So they want to do, they have some philanthropy. I can't speak. English is hard, okay? So
you got all them degrees. She said, I'm used to acronyms. MBA. That's all you need to know.
Exactly,
MBA.
right? So sometimes you may have someone that says, well, you know what, we want to go ahead and do business. At least we want 50% of our business to go to minority-owned small businesses. So how are we going to identify who they are? We have a database, a dynamic small business search, where people can search for minority-owned small businesses. If you don't have that certification, you're not going to pop up.
All right, Sammy, that's you. She just said.
That is me, and is absolutely true. Our federal contract that we had is because we are women-owned small business, certified women-owned small business with the SBA. And when that contract, it came out as a sources sought, which means the government is doing some market research to see who all out here, who can provide these services. And so the contracting manager reached directly out to me and was like, you're in our database as a certified woman-owned small business. I see that you're a Black woman-owned marketing agency. This is coming out. Then she emailed me several times throughout the whole process, which doesn't happen. And if it does, that's a very good indicator that it's going to be yours. And so being in those databases, it definitely helps you get seen. And what Tanisha was saying is true, right? Because I just did one of these certification webinars. Last year, the government spent $183 billion in small businesses alone, right? So year to date, as of April of this year, they spent 4.16 trillion. So of that 4.16 trillion, like Tanisha was saying, they have designated set aside numbers and percentages that they're trying to reach. So with the woman-owned small business, they have that 5% goal. So our certification, that contract that we have is helping our contracts with NOAA. So that's helping NOAA, which is helping the federal government reach that 5% goal, right?
They have to show. Yep. Yep.
Yep. On the flip side, there's other contracting vehicles. You have the disadvantaged business enterprise, which is through the DOT, Department of Transportation. And so with the DBE, that's supposed to open up doors within the Department of Transportation. However, once you're certified in your home state as a certified DBE, Disadvantaged Business Enterprise, you can then apply for certifications in any other state. So my company, 648, we're certified in 13 states as a DBE, Disadvantaged Business Enterprise. And we use that as a contracting vehicle because we submit proposals to RFPs, requests for proposals, RFIs, all of the time. And and we're national. So in any of these states, an RFP may come out that says you will get extra points towards your proposal if you're a certified DBE or MWBE in our state. So while I'm doing the proposal process, I'm looking at deadlines and seeing how much time I got. But I'm also at the same time submitting my application to become a DBE or MWBE in that state so that I can then get extra points added towards my proposal. So that's worked for me in several states where I've been awarded contracts throughout the country simply because of my DBE certification. So as a service provider, as a marketing agency, it's really not my place in the Department of Transportation. It's hard for me to get contracts there. But also shout out to Sherry Pratt over at the Department of Transportation, who always looks out. But although I'm not getting those high dollar contracts through the Connecticut DOT, I'm using that DBE certification that's issued through them as a contracting vehicle to do business in other states and get those contracts.
So, I want to make a note too that when we talk about these goals and these percentages, these are not the ceiling, these are the floor. So I tell people that all the time because the 8A, it was at 15%, and then it was reset to statutory limits of 5%, right? That 5% is still the floor, it's not the ceiling. So when I go, I'll use veteran as an example just to be safe, right? So veteran, if I go to the VA and you tell me that you only did 5%, I'm side-eyeing you. The VA needs to be showing me at least 60% that they set aside for veteran, right? Because you're a veteran service organization, right? So when you look at the different numbers, and I don't have my stats up for fiscal year 2024, and they have, 23, and they haven't released for 24 yet, the official numbers for what they were, but every one of them, with the exception of HubZone, they've exceeded that limit. So I know in fiscal year 23, 8A and socially disadvantaged businesses, they were at almost 16%, even though the goal was much less than that. So so that's not the floor. That's not the ceiling, rather, it's the floor.
That's a good point. So Hallmark, the staffing agency I own, is a minority-owned business, small business enterprise, and that having that certification as part of our business made us eligible for a direct contract from the state, making us one of the preferred vendors. So now, because of that certification, we are one of the top 5 that are tied directly into the state for staffing services, which goes a long way.
Okay. Talk to me about, and guys, because I know there's a lot of you out there, because I've had conversations with y'all. Make sure you rewatch this video, because all this knowledge that's being spit right now, especially with Sense, she just gave a whole bunch of acronyms and all that type of stuff. Look that stuff up. You can't sit there and say that you don't know or don't have the knowledge when we're putting together these types of venues where we can have real conversations with real people that are making it happen. So she just told you, this is what I did. Elle just said, this is what I did. And obviously when you got Tanisha in the background, you can say, yeah, I know somebody at the SBA. You don't want to get in trouble with me. And there you go. Because it is all about relationships. And I'm glad that Tanisha said that earlier. In terms of, and this is the question that we got, you guys seen in the chat, in terms of the Hispanic community. Many small business owners may recently come from another country where credit ratings don't exist. Any recommendations on how to approach getting funding in that scenario? Thank you very much, Carlos, for that question.
So I'm going to say to start with community lenders and start working. I have other questions, right? So I know for our program, citizenship is a requirement, right? So you have to be a US citizen. And then also in order to get credit ratings and things like that, you need to have a social security number. So there's going to be more follow-up questions to that question, right? Because a lot of lenders, they are going to have some type of citizenship requirement, unless you're looking at community-based funding.
Right.
And Sammy may know of some different avenues that they may be able to take to that end.
I think the CDFI is going to be the best bet because you need to find that entry point. The bigger banks, they just require too much. I mean, us citizens who've been here since we were brought here on ships, I mean, we can't even get the funding. So like, I mean, I digress a bit, but
that's all right. That's what this is about. Double Dutch it. Let's go. Yeah, this is a real conversation.
I think find out what the CDFIs are. Who are those organizations? Where are they? Where are they in your area? Schedule meetings, get on people's calendars, set up those consultations, and really establish those businesses, those relationships. You don't want to wait until it's too late. You also don't want to go in there acting as if you know everything too. So one thing I found in my business, especially in my early days, I was a sponge. I'm still a sponge. I don't know what I don't know. And I would go in there like, teach me, right. Tell me, I don't know. And let them tell you what's available to you and where you are. And then help them work with a counselor, an advisor who can help you develop a roadmap to get to where you need to be so that you can get some of that bigger funding like LB was talking about, because they're not going to give you 100 grand out the gate. And you need to also understand, they may be looking at you crazy if you have like zero credit, you have no established business, you have no experience, and you like, I need $250,000. And you don't want to do that to yourself, because how are you going to manage that, like Tanisha was saying? So I think start with the CDFIs, but then also I think we haven't really talked about the private certifications. We have WeBank, we have NMSDC, we have Buy Black with the U.S. Black Chambers. With WeBank, you get certified at the national level as a women's business enterprise. And I'm gonna put this in the chat. With NMSDC, the National Minority Supply Development Council, you're gonna get certified at the national level as a minority business enterprise. U.S. Black Chambers and the Black Chamber of Commerce, U.S. Black Chambers and Buy Black certifies you as a Black-owned business. That one is free. WeBank and NMSDC, you do have to pay. However, there are caveats around paying right now. NMSDC for minority business enterprise is offering a certification reimbursement through like Lowe's and Home Depot and Walmart and other organizations. WeBank, if you submit, this is what I just found out because I work with clients who need their certification. So I'm actively doing the hands-on work. We had a client who was like, Sammy, do my certification application, but I ain't got the coins to pay for it. And so I said, okay, we already submitted that. We already completed the application. We just need to submit. Let's hit the option to say we're going to pay by check because she don't have the money. So we said, let's submit it. We're going to pay by check. Y'all do what y'all need to do. At least submit it. Y'all know how it is. Just get it in there. So we submitted it. And within an hour, she got an email saying you may be eligible for this sponsorship of your WeBank certification through Walmart. And so they sent her a Walmart grant application. I'm also a grant writer, so I submitted the grant for her. Less than an hour, like 30 minutes later, she got an email. Congratulations, you've been approved. Walmart is paying for your certification this year. So now that went through, and we're in the process of finalizing her WeBank certification. So there are some loops around this that you can try to get away with not paying, because WeBank is $350 a year. And you have to maintain that year after year. You have to pay for it. NMSDC is a little bit higher. I want to say it's like $400 or $450 a year. And again, you have to maintain that. But the purpose of the WeBank and the NMSDC certifications is they're contracting vehicles for corporate. With Tanisha and the SBA, the Women-Owned Small Business, Hub Zone 8A, that's all federal contracting vehicles. So if you
Okay.
want to do business with the federal government, you're going to get those certifications through the SBA. If you want to do business with the corporations, Target, well, we're not really dealing with them, but the other people, right? The corporates, right? Then you want to go WeBank and NMSDC, right? But if you want to do both, and you're like, we're certified with everything. We got all the whole alphabet soup, right?
Right.
So I'm maintaining my SBA certifications. I'm maintaining my WeBank and my NMSDC certifications. But more than just maintaining it, I'm building those relationships with the people behind the brand of the SBA, like Tanisha, hey girl, hey, and then like WeBank and NMSDC, right? Here in Connecticut, we have the GNE NMSDC. We have Peter Hurst, who runs that, right? We have Ramona, who does the certification process for now, because it's supposed to go back to national. Who knows? At WeBank, right? I'm just emailing Leandra, who is the president of WeBank. So
Okay.
it's building those relationships also and showing up as in anything you do, like the West Hartford Chamber, right? You can't just be a member of the chamber and not show up and participate and think it's going to be worth your ROI. You gotta participate. You gotta let people know you're here and the value you bring.
So, and I'm glad okay, so reading each other's minds, and this is what I love about, and I said this to each one of you, it turns organic, right? It's not like beat rap, this is what we're going to talk about. And Chris Clark is so funny. He sent me something, and he's put it in the chat as well. Racism, we all know that. Redlining, we all know that. Yes, it is real. But relationships, networking, getting to know people, being seen in other places outside of, say, the gun store, outside of, just the Hallmark. I just know personally, obviously, he has a boat. He's out there in the waters. He's out there not just in East Hartford, not just in Hartford. He's in Bolton. He's in Glastonbury. He's everywhere. And so people are like, wait a minute. No, you did this and that. I've seen you here. I've seen you there. Not just only in those black spaces. I just want to be, you got to network everywhere. Part of obviously, my introduction, yes, I am a town councilor here in South Windsor, first black town councilor, first black deputy mayor. People are like, wait a minute, that's you. Yes, that's me. But then they see me in West Hartford on the board. Oh my gosh, that's you. You're that Stephen King? Yes. Next thing I know, I'm over in Groton or Avon or somewhere singing, and somebody says, wait a minute, ain't you in South Windsor? Yes, but I'm also a vocal artist. But they see me in all these different spaces, whether I'm networking directly with them or not, so that when an opportunity does come, again, going to Sammy Anthony's point earlier, they're saying, we already know of you, about you. We feel like we know you. We've been waiting for you to come. Why? And this is another important part. And anybody wants to jump in on this, you can, because you also help establish us in your community. It's not just about you.
Yeah. It ain't one way.
Yes. And if you do it right, I'll introduce you to this. I'll introduce you to her. I'll introduce you to this gender background, whatever it might be, because that also helps them. And it is that, not quid pro quo necessarily, but what it is because you've done the networking, because you've built the relationship, even though you don't know that you are, somebody's watching you somewhere. It sounds like you want to jump into that, like that's happened to you.
No, oh, that's so true what you're saying. Like, and I got a couple different avenues to speak from, but being the first black-owned gun store in the state, like that's an uneasy environment. But because I've been an instructor for 14 years, I'm a member at about 10 different clubs. Yep, I had to go to all of them, and every time I went, they look at you like,
Yeah.
you're gonna rob the place. Look, but
right. Yeah, you're a big dude. You're a big black dude.
Yep. And it took a lot to show, hey, you get a lot of you talk well, you articulate yourself well. Like, yes, I speak English too. It's like, oh, how do you know about you can shoot, you can perform? Yeah. Yep. And there's a sense of legitimacy that you get over time, that
yep.
Those are just chips and coins in your pockets. So then as you bring in more people, um, more goodwill starts to get spread. But being the first in an environment where the average age is above 50 and
Mm.
Caucasian, and they don't have the view or perspective of younger folk, like it takes a lot to start to turn the corner. But when you do and you become a resource, listen, I have 55-plus-year-old men walking up to the second floor of the gun shop, right? And then from Hallmark, the relationship side of it is I worked with a guy for 9 years. Um, and he was ready to sell his business. And he approached me 6 or 7 times to really consider it. Great business model, profit already working well. 41 years in existence. I was able to buy um, because of the relationship, right? And
Mm.
then my other businesses, like the courier service, was someone needed help. They said, "Hey, I'm doing this." Is that how you do? You're doing what? You're delivering to make so much money. I was like, "How much you paying for that?" 100 bucks a day. You're paying 100 bucks a day to rent a van? I was like, "I'll give you a van, right?" And I pay $600 a month. And then, it's that relationship, the knowledge sharing, like Tanisha and Sammy are doing, like dropping
Yes.
bombs today. And I'm just speaking from experience, from someone who's experienced, who has dealt with that and found success in it. Everything I've been able to accomplish in business, it starts with a relationship somewhere. So I don't remember who said it earlier about walking into the bank before you need the money, right?
Yes.
Being
Yep.
present in an environment that may not
Yep.
be inclusive of you, but put your toe in the water and start to expand. All that goes a long way if you want to find success in business from the bottom up.
Right. The networking. Yes, I got you, Chris Clark. Visibility builds credibility. Yes, very true. But again, I think Sammy said it best. You have to be there. You can't just be part of. Yeah, that's nice and it looks good in the book. It looks good in the directory. But I will say, even as a member of the West Hartford Chamber, even though I live in South Windsor, a lot of my connects were in Hartford. Going out there and then being a part of that particular community opened up doors to Newington, opened up doors to Rocky Hill because people are coming from everywhere. And especially if you present yourself in the right way and you're looking to also help others, because that's what, even with this right now, it's not about us, it's about helping others find those resources and say, okay, what do they say? Paying it forward. You have to be willing to do that, but you also have to show up. And do not be afraid, and this is just from Black male speaking, do not be afraid to speak. Do not, if you have a product, if you have whatever, and you're proud of it, I don't care what it is, you have to be ready to sell yourself and speak to it when you're asked the question. What do you do? You can't be fumbling around and, oh, well, I'll do this and do. No. What do you do? Why do I want it from you?
I was on a call yesterday and someone was asked, so I think I asked, so what do you do? And there was a lot of the fumbling. Well, some people wonder, can you answer the question or can you not? Because the longer it takes for you to respond, the more you're losing credibility.
So that's why I say a lot of people really groan when I bring up these two words, business plan. Listen, I'm sorry, I'm gonna always bring it up. I think that it's important. And I think it's important for people to go through the practice of creating and developing their business plan. And I know Chat GPT and all that exists, and it's fine if you use them as a tool, but not for you to say, I have a plumbing business servicing Hartford County, write my business plan, and you just hit Control Alt, Control C, Control V somewhere else. That's not helping you. And if you walk into a bank, into a lender, and you say, I want a loan, here's my business plan, they're going to ask you questions about your business. And if you're sitting there and you're saying, well, it's plumbing, I fix pipes, like that's not what they want to hear, because remember what I said, they want their money back. So if you're business is important to you, they're going to know that
Mhm.
it's important to you. And why is it important to them that your business be important to you? Because you're going to fight like hell to keep that business going, right? You're going to do
Mm.
whatever it needs to keep it thriving and keeping your doors open. If it's just something like, oh, this is the next great thing, really don't care about it, but I hear, it's what's making people a lot of money. So I'm going to open a business doing this, and I'll have Chat GPT spit me out a business plan. I'll pull some fake financials from the internet, fluff up some projections, and I'm going to submit it and I'm going to get a loan. And then when it gets too hard, what are you going to
Mhm.
do? I didn't care
Right.
about it anyway. So I'm just going to walk away from it. And
And
then
what?
what happens? Your loan defaults.
Mhm.
So I think that going through that practice of learning every bit of your business and how you want it to run, map it out, get excited about it. This is where I can see myself going in 5 years with this business. I'm looking at the industry and these are the trends, and this is exciting. And I want to
Mhm.
show this off to somebody. You want to get worked up. Look how Albert's over there smiling. He's thinking about that M16 behind him, or is that an M9? I can't tell. He's saying,
That's an AK. That's a security system. Just
yes.
kidding. Just kidding. Hands free. So I love what you just said, and I'm gonna use more of my regular voice here. I got an SBA loan for the staffing agency a year and a half ago, and just the different perspectives and what you hear, like, oh, under this amount, you don't need collateral. And I had gotten deep in the process. Thank God I worked with this company for a long time beforehand, but I got so deep in the process, I didn't want to restart. I was so dissatisfied with the bank that was
Yep.
creating or setting this all up that I was like, wait a minute, I thought the percentage was going to be this on top of whatever the rate was. I thought I didn't need collateral. And once I started showing them that I was talking to someone else, the and the odds started. But I was so deep in the loan that I wrapped it up anyway. But I think it was you, Tanisha. If my resume wasn't tight, if I didn't have the experience, if I wasn't
Right.
able to talk about the business in a way that made sense, and if the numbers didn't add up, I could have easily been turned down. And because I did have the right things in the right place at the right time,
Yep.
it went a lot easier than expected. Now I didn't like the bank who did it for me because it was crazy, and I got those emails. I got the email that says, "Look, this guy's going to be so far in, there's no other way out. He's gonna pay the loan." And I'm like, bro, my credit is 800, right? They're like, "Oh, we could get his other business. He's got $150,000 in inventory sitting." Uh, yeah, like, so just hearing the stuff in the background that wasn't supposed to be available to me, and plus I knew
Yeah.
the owner, so I would see the other side of it. It is so important to have your ducks in a row before you go in there, and I think I'm just seconding what you were putting out there, Tanisha, because
Read. Please
it
read.
means a lot.
Please read.
Yeah.
It seems like a ha ha he he thing when we say, reading is fundamental, but it truly is. There's so many predatory lending practices out there
Yeah.
where I had someone approach me about a loan that they had. And it was like, I keep making my minimum payments, and it's like my balance, I'm making a payment and I'm looking at my statement, and my balance is higher than it was last month, but I
Yeah.
made my payment. Well,
Right.
when you look and it's telling you that literally it was 433%.
Lord.
Mm.
They didn't see that. They were desperate. They were
Yep.
desperate
Yep.
because they went to a very large bank whose name I will not say. Their colors kind of match, but
Mm.
they went to a very large bank, and the bank was just telling them no, and they thought that they had everything, right? But the bank was telling them no. So they were really frustrated. So they just went online and they Googled business loan, and they found someone that gave them a really fast yes.
Yep.
And the only word they read, I think, was yes.
Mm.
We're
Yep.
going to give you this amount. And guess what? You don't even have to put you don't even have to put anything, you need no skin in the game, no down payments, no nothing. We're just giving you 100% financing. Don't need no
Predatory.
collateral. Don't need anything. Yeah. So if it sounds too good to be true, more than likely it is. And even if you have questions about it, right? Just because you get a yes somewhere, okay, hold on to that. Thank you.
Yeah, right.
Give me a couple of days to think about it, continue to
Yes.
shop around. Let me show
Right.
the terms and conditions to my attorney.
Right.
Listen,
Yes.
Now,
I told
Tanisha, you just took it to a whole nother place, an attorney.
Yes.
But that's real, right? Because even if you don't have one, I used to say to everybody, act as if.
Yeah.
And once I learned that, act as if, and people just assume you know what you're talking about. You know
And
what?
also, develop
Yeah,
your
go ahead.
networks where you're acting. You can fake it till you make it short. Act as if, but develop your network so if it comes down to it, you can reach into your networks and say, "I
Right.
need a
Of
business
course.
attorney. I need a small business attorney," and somebody can connect you.
They will find you one, and there are some that do, they have clinics that they set up in some area libraries where it may be a law student, but guess what? You know, have you ever
Yeah.
gone to like a barber school when you were
Yes.
younger, you just needed a haircut and they charge you a lot less? People that are, I love the kids that are in the massage therapy schools because they need to do so many hours of massages. I'll sign up for that all day, right? So
Yikes. Okay.
you'll find people in law school, right? That will sit there and they set up clinics where they'll do some free work, pro bono work with you.
So I gotta say, a lot of times you'll get, and I'm not talking about the spam or phishing emails. These opportunities to learn will be out there right in front of you, and we kind of turn our nose to it, like free event or free opportunity to learn. And with our educational foundation, once we really got the wheels turning the last 5 to 10 years, we would go in a group of 5 to 6 to these events to learn about grant writing, to learn stuff that was out there. And it was a big benefit that helped us overall. So if you're just starting in business, don't be hesitant or unready to learn more. I think Tanisha said reading is fundamental, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to go where you don't know to learn more.
Yes.
And it make sure it's legitimate, but the Chamber of Commerce's, the community networks, the town stuff is so important. Look, if I wasn't good with the town, I would have never gotten a federal license. If I couldn't get out locally, forget about it. So you have to be able to navigate the environment that's in front of you and make it work for you. So instead of watching the Knicks versus whoever, right, you can do a lot of studying online and learn some stuff that'll help you as you navigate in business.
When I first started my business, I was at every training that Tanisha, I can't remember her last name, Lisa did with the SBA. Lisa did training.
Oh yeah, she's down in Virginia now. I love Lisa.
I love Lisa. I was at every training. Like, I need to know this stuff. I don't know what you're teaching. And one time Lisa turned around and said, because I will follow her all over the state, wherever she's at. Like, I don't know this topic. And she turned around one morning and said, "Sammy, you are a groupie." And I said, "But I don't know this topic. How else am I learn it?" And I did the same with what was PTAC then, now Apex Accelerators. I had to learn everything, and I had to be a sponge. There's so many people who are entering business and they think they know it all, and then they're not receptive to it, and that's not going to benefit you at all.
You have to be open to learning. And last year I did a similar, Lisa and I used to have like the Lisa Tanisha show, traveling around doing all these courses. Last year I did a 14 module course on government contracting. We're federal. Y'all pay me. Thank you for my salary. I like it. Keep paying me. So everything that we do is free. Our resource partners, their services are free. I hope I'll see you December 3rd, Sammy and Albert, all of you. We're doing a big Connecticut small business matchmaker at the convention center. That's my baby that I'm building from the ground up all over again. We are hoping to have all of the colleges and universities there looking for suppliers, state prime contractors, federal contractors. We want 600 small businesses minimum to register for this event, and it's free. So people don't turn their nose up to stuff that is free. Just because it's free doesn't mean that it's not quality. I know we say you get what you pay for, but you are paying for this because your taxes are paying for all of these free events.
Get it.
Yeah. So please.
We are. So December 3rd, Convention Center. Is there you put a registration or something like that in the chat?
Yeah, I have my flyers up and ready to go. I'll put that right in the chat right now.
Okay, let's
Tanisha,
go.
thank you, because I will circulate that with CMWP and put it out there, because we do currently have a procurement readiness series that we're doing with CMWP, and we're gearing everyone up so that they can be prepared for that matchmaker. We're helping with certifications, capability statements, your pitch. We talk about the pitch, your corporate bio. All of that needs to be together when you're in
Websites. We do not want websites under construction. You need to have a website. Please do not.
628 Digital Design people.
We want
Yeah.
you want your businesses to be taken seriously. And listen, I love my people. I really do. Y'all just make the world so
I knew this
I
was
love
coming
y'all.
eventually.
But
Here we go.
this
Let's
is
go.
what we like to call a little sisterly love, a little sisterly correction here. Your email
Oh,
addresses. Okay.
Yikes! BlackSabbath.com. Let's go. Yeah. Big smile, Stevie.
Right. Yes. Your email addresses need to be reflective of your business. You want your business to be taken seriously, right? I really just
Yes. I just wrote a proposal today. Somebody got some Gmail email address. That's not business. That's not professional. What are you doing? Don't have AOL, Yahoo, Outlook, any of that. It should be your domain.
Yes. Even for me as a musician, I have my own band called the SKJ Experiment, and bought the domain real quick. I even bought a skjexperiment.org or whatever, just in case, because people get caught up in that from time to time. And then set that up on Google. Steve at skjexperiment.com. So still goes through Google, but because it has a domain, there you go.
Nothing related to your business should say at gmail.com, at outlook.com, God forbid at AOL.com. We don't want
even going to go as deep as that. You're absolutely right. It should be reflective of your business in the after the app, but I was talking more so what comes before the app.
Yes.
So,
yes. Big Daddy that's not going to work. Nobody's trying to hear all that.
And I get these emails and they come from folks. And if you're sending emails to professionals as well, please, especially if you're looking for money, be a little bit professional, because I look at that and it's just kind of like, my agency will filter it to spam real quick.
Yes, right. That's one thing I learned from Lisa many years ago. The government, and also on the corporate side, some of them, but the government especially, they don't want info at or admin at. They want a name. They want to know when you're dealing with the procurement specialist, they want Samantha at. So I have my main email is info@CMWP, but I got all of the aliases. So I can do Sammy at, Samantha at, Sam at, sales at, and it's all going to come to the same email address. So get the aliases, have your primary set up with a domain.
Right.
The one you're using to market your business to the government, to corporate, it should have at least your first name in it.
So we are at we got 20 some odd minutes left. And one of the things that we're talking about, the email piece, and this does, but it doesn't, is keep it professional. At the end of the day, I may know Sammy, and now I'm getting to know Tanisha, I know LB, but even in those moments, you don't know who else is going to see that email. If I'm asking for money and trying to grow my business, whatever, I may hit Sammy on the side, text message, hey, I'm about to send you something, and that's where you can be you. But in terms of the email address and all that, and even in your email,
professional.
Keep it professional. You have to do that, and all that stuff. Once you build up the relationship, that stuff will happen later on. In this final 20 minutes or so, because in respect to your time, I like to keep it on time. And this is something that I always ask, because I think it's extremely valuable. You guys have all been in your industry, in your business for an extreme length of time. And I'll start with L, and then we'll just go right around, because that's where y'all are on my screen. If this was 2020 LB, 2015 LB, and you could go back in time and say something to you, 1, 2, 3 things, what would it be that now you look back on and you say, gosh, darn it, I wish I'd have known that. I might have done it this way. What happened?
Yeah, how old was I 10 years ago?
Here
So
you go.
yeah, no, I would have started a lot sooner. I would and it doesn't I have the conversation all the time. Business is not for everybody. I get it. I know it. Not everyone is is fit, ready, or will have the personality to
Mhm.
run their own business. This is not easy. It's not for everybody. Cool. But I I've had three corporate jobs that were high paying that I worked and put so much effort into making organizations money. If I could go back 10 years, and probably before that, because I started back then too, but I would say invest in yourself now. Um, Start to move now. Like we have this thing where we want to wait. Don't wait. Start now. Invest in yourself. I think that cleared up. Because if you don't, you're gonna work another 10, 15 years for someone else making them money. And I learned that $100,000 a year, you're only taking home 60 anyway. So that's not where it is, at least for me. So start early, invest in yourself, and make progress.
Okay. Sammy, what you got? What you got? 10 years ago, Sammy, with the curly hair, and you might not have the
It's
door knockers on. You would, what was you doing then that you would say, girl, that
First
figure
of
it out?
all, you already know. Don't let this get wet because it's gonna be curly, curly,
Yeah,
curly.
go.
Right? You already know. I would say, which I'm still kind of working on, streamline some things. Right? Like I had my main company is still Sam's Word LLC. Shout out to the people who remember Sam's Word. 628 is a DBA of Sam's Word. I also had Melanated Business Coaching, which was a DBA of Sam's Word, and then I got CMWP on the other side. That's his own other beast, right? But what I
Copy that.
learned was I don't need to have all these separate entities set up. I don't need all of that. What I learned in the last year or two with Melanated Business Coaching, I'm doing the business certifications, the grant writing, business coaching. I realized people didn't care what name, brand name I was providing these services under. They just want to see me to show up and do the work. And that was it. But on the back end, building the business, I'm maintaining all of the back end stuff, the websites,
Mm,
the no certifications because all certifications under Sam's Word, but the websites, the Calendlys, the Zooms, the all the things that
yep,
cost money. And I'm like,
yep.
I don't care if I'm doing this under 628 or Melanated or Sam's Word. And so what I did was I ended up closing Melanated, merged it with 628, and just streamlined the process. And it just makes it cleaner and easier. It makes it less confusing in the market, and people
Mm,
can understand better what it is you're doing. They know 628 provides these services. Sammy provides these services. So people will come to me and say, "Are you still doing Melanated, the coaching program?" And I'll say, "Yep, but under 628. That website don't even
mm.
exist anymore. Well, everything's under 628. Streamline it, bring it together."
Okay,
Can I ask
okay.
you a question, Sammy? Can I just a question? Was that a process? Like, because I think when I look at stuff like that, I'm like, well, maybe I wasn't ready for it back then, and it happened progressively. Did Sam's World, Melanated, and now 628, where you kind of combined it? Was that a process
So
of growth, or did you, what does that
yeah,
look like for you?
I'll tell you, LB, the hardest process through it all was going from Sam's Word to 628. At
Mm,
some point I realized, so I'm a CEO. I'm the boss, right? I'm a writer, but I'm not a designer. I don't do graphic design. I don't do websites, any of that. And so I've hired women on my team. We have a commitment to economic inclusivity, which means the women on my team are all Black women. That's who work for me. And so the women on my team had these diverse skill sets. My writers that I hired were building websites and doing social media and doing graphic design and building logos. And then I said, wait, we're not looking like a writing company anymore. So I evolved Sam's Word to 628. And when I started 628, people gravitated towards it. It blew up. But in my head, I was so lost. I was so confused because Sam's Word was my baby. And I was like, everybody knows Sam's Word, the logo. If y'all know, it had the book, the red crimson and all that. 628 is the 628 blue, right? Everyone loves 628. And I'm like, okay, this is going to be a rebrand, but what am I going to do? At one point, I had the Sam's Word logo in the 628 blue. right? Then I was doing 628 digital design powered by Sam's Word because I'm like, everybody knows Sam's Word. I talked to
Right.
the SBDC. I talked to so many counselors, and I'm like, I just don't know what to do. I'm so conflicted. Everybody likes 628. And some of them said, it don't matter what you call it. You still doing the same work. I'm like, I know, but I feel like Sam's Word is getting old. I don't know what to do. And
Right.
then I had an attorney tell me it doesn't really matter. You can just change the name of the business from 628, from Sam's Word to 628. And I was like, as if Sam's Word never existed? How dare you? That's my baby. Just change the name. And
Right.
I was so hella conflicted. It was crazy. And then at one point, I mentioned Sam's Word to someone, and they said, "What's Sam's Word?" And I was like, "Oh, ouch." And eventually I dropped the 628 powered by Sam's Word. Sam's Word website also no longer, it's there in the background, but you can't go to it anymore. If you go to samsword.com, it's going to take you to 628 website.
28.
And so now I'm in this place where I'm like, maybe I'll just change the whole name of the business to 628. You know, like somebody
Yeah.
didn't say that 6 years ago. And so it's that evolution of the thought process. It's the rebranding. It's letting go. It's accepting what the new business is, the evolution of the business. It's a whole thing. I do branding,
Don't be
and I
stuck.
couldn't
Yeah.
get through the mental part of the rebrand.
Don't stay. Don't. And I got all of that, and it is a process. And I would say this, especially in regards to when COVID-19 hit. And she didn't say this, but I'm gonna say it. Business owners, whatever you love it, be ready to pivot. Be ready. Don't stay stuck in, oh, well, everybody knows that I sing 70s music. Well, if I go to a wedding and they say we want to hear the girl is it bad to the body I go, I better learn that song. Don't be you hired a 70s singer and that's all I'm saying.
You can't.
Because you're going to end up losing business because you want to stay stuck. Coronavirus hit everybody, and it was those businesses that pivoted. And I'll give this example before Tanisha, you can jump into where you was, 10, 20 years ago. And I was in a completely different journey. But those restaurants that all of a sudden said we can't have anybody inside. And so we're going to buy all the heat lamps that we possibly can so that we can have people outside, stay successful. Those businesses that said, wait a minute, if we can't sell liquor inside, we need to find a way through relationships. How can we do this outside? Boom. Those businesses that said, you know what, like we used to do back in the day, where we used to have, and everybody calls them different, street parties, block parties. That's what a lot of businesses came together and said, and I know West Hartford's done this, and some other towns have done it since. Maybe if we put up a New Jersey barrier, and then at least if we have everybody here, then everybody will start to frequent all of our businesses. Be ready to pivot. Be ready to say, okay, I need to branch outside of myself. And as Sammy said, talk to someone else. Say, what do you guys think? And don't be so in your own feelings that when they say, well, when I look at you as X, oh, okay, I didn't realize. Is that what everybody's saying? Pivot. Be ready. Be ready. Tanisha, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, even from what you see with the SBA, but what would you tell your younger you?
So I'm just gonna be a rebel and I'm not gonna follow instructions because I'm different.
Of course, no, I figured that. Yeah, I'm ready.
So I remember Sam's Word and I was like, who in the world is 628 emailing me at SBA? I don't know who this is. I'm about to report them as spam. I don't know that person.
Wow.
Then I saw the headshot. I was like, oh, that's Sammy. So I remember that. So I'm going to say, 10, 15 years ago, I was still in civil service. I have my little side businesses and side hustles. I do, but I'm very risk averse. So I choose to keep them as side hustles. I like knowing every 2 weeks exactly what's getting deposited into my account and things like that. I like that. Well, what used to be security prior to 2025, January, what was that, 23rd? But anyway, I digress. So I'm going to talk about small businesses 10 to 15 years ago and something that I learned, and I'm going to take it to COVID. Yep. And Stephen, you were in my brain when you brought that up about pivoting, contingency planning. If you do nothing else, contingency planning needs to be priority. The number of businesses who could not sustain operations for 30 days
Yep.
when COVID hit was
Yep.
astronomical.
Yep.
So contingency planning, no one expected that there would be a global pandemic in our lifetime. I didn't. You know, we're all naive. We think that sunshine and rainbows are always on our side, right? But
Right.
We
contingency
black though,
planning.
Tanisha.
See, here we go. See?
Colorful, colorful.
10
Colorful
minutes left.
conversations, yes.
10 minutes left. She gonna go, yeah, off the deep end. It's mute,
So
Sammy.
it is. I mean, just be realistic, right? We're in an era right now. We even teach our children this. Well, some of us teach our children this. I was making my kids do push-ups and telling them to tighten up their shot group and things like that. But
That's your military background.
but please tell people to look in the mirror and tell yourselves how great you are. I'm so great. I'm so great. But a SWOT analysis is more than just about your strengths. You need to identify your weaknesses and figure out how to turn those into strengths. I recognize your threats and turn those into opportunities, right? So you have to be able to identify the bad before it happens so that you have a contingency plan and create that pivot ahead of time.
Wait, I want to take that back to the certifications with the contingency plans, right? With
Yes, ma'am.
WeBank on the private side, with WeBank and NMSDC, they provide tons of training and professional development, personal development. So a lot of people think I'm gonna get certified and I'm gonna go get me a contract. That's not the case. Sam's Word was certified as a woman-owned small business for 7 years, 6 years before we got our first federal contract. It's a long game, right? But when you're certified with WeBank and NMSDC, my thing is up now, so my walls are filled with certifications, right? I have training from eCornell, from Wharton School of Business, and those are all free training opportunities from being certified. And so they teach you things like your contingency plan. They teach you developing an exit strategy, right? Some businesses start just the end. They start with Covey says begin with the end in mind. What's my exit strategy here? And so take advantage of other opportunities when getting certified more than just that contract, because that contract is a long game. Just because you get certified don't mean you get a contract, but there's tons of opportunities. And then also with the MWBEs and the MBEs, there's such thing as WBE to WBE contracting. So you can go to a matchmaker thinking you're going to get a federal contract or a corporate contract, but you may get more business from the other WBEs and MBEs in the room than trying to talk to those procurement specialists. Yes, you want to introduce yourself, give them your capability statement, and then go over to that small business that's over here waiting with you and do your business pitch, exchange information, and then follow up with them later.
Right. There's a such thing as partnership agreements and joint venture agreements and different things like that, where you can come together and build your capabilities together jointly, right? So 628 may not have enough resources to operate on this large contract, but if they form a teaming agreement or a joint venture with a larger business or another small business that does have enough capabilities, they pool their resources together. Now they can successfully work on that contract and they both get credit for it, right? So they build their past performance. But I always say that everything is a tool. Nothing is going to fall in your lap. We are still waiting on reparations. So it's just sometimes people think that like I get these certifications and things are just going to start falling out the sky for me, and they're not. You have to do a specific amount of work yourself. And that's even, as Sammy said, people laugh at me all the time because I'm always getting a certificate. What do you need that certificate? Who cares? It's there. It's free. I'm getting it. So, and I'm not even talking about certifications like woman owned and different things like that, but like my FACC as an example, that's the Federal Acquisition Certification for Contracting, right? That means that if I end up getting succumb to this reduction in force and downsizing of this government, I had now all of the qualifications to walk into the private sector and be a contracting officer somewhere, or a small business liaison officer or something like that, right? So you've always got to put all these tools in your toolbox. It matters, right? It matters.
Everybody trying to, they come with the knowledge at the end of the show, right? There's killing it earlier because everybody was, being the uppity. And then all of a sudden we got comfortable. If there's one thing, know your acronyms. Sammy was spitting a whole bunch out. I don't even
I
know
put them
half
in
of
the
them.
chat. I put them, they're
So
there.
No,
my
you
boss
did.
yells at me when I start talking contract and I start talking about RFPs, RFIs, SOWs, PWSs, and all of these things. She's like, Tanisha, you know, nobody understands you. You're speaking a foreign language to them, right? So I have learned to start spitting, like saying what they are:
Yep.
woman-owned small business, our service
Right.
disabled, set of SDV, OSB, WASB, this, that, and the other. There are a lot of acronyms. There's a learning curve to it all. And I always tell people sometimes things seem overwhelming. And when it
Right.
seems like other people know it all and you feel like you're falling way behind, that's not always the case. Always
Right.
raise your hand and you ask those questions, because that's the only way that you're going to grow. I tell people all the time, just because I sit here and say I can open up the FAR, the Field Acquisition Regulation, and find all of these things, or the Code of Federal Regulations, and find all of these things, it is hard. I just said English is hard. Life is hard, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
English be
Yeah.
hard.
comes easy to everybody. So don't feel like, oh, this is some stuff that's going to be too hard or way beyond my reach, outside of my scope. Everything is within reach when you put in the work.
And ask questions, like you said, get around those people, right? We're the average of the people we spend the time with. So get around those people who are doing the things that you aspire to do. Learn from others and tap into those free resources.
Free.
See,
Love
I
that
don't
word.
even
That's my
have to.
favorite word.
Yeah, well, hey, it is. I used to say all the time, especially as a couponer. COVID showed me so much. When I lost my job, I became a couponer, and I said, if it ain't free, it ain't me. And
There
that
you
was it.
go.
Everybody, how do you coupon all that stuff, man? Before COVID came out, I had a whole bunch of Clorox bleach down here just because it was on sale. Who knew? Next thing I know, I was going to be selling it on the block. But that's a whole nother conversation for a different day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just caught myself right there. Uh, with 4 minutes left, and I didn't even have to ask for any parting shots or parting knowledge. Obviously, you guys, Minority Business Network, this is what is really all about. At a certain point, certain individuals who were all part of the West Hartford Chamber came together and they said, how can we help elevate each other? Yes, I'm doing well, but when the people around me are not, or I'm not providing them knowledge, then how can we all be successful? Because that's the other piece that I hope that a lot of you take away from this particular conversation. As you saw all the interactions, even from L at a certain point, he said, okay, I need to understand. Yes, I'm successful in my own right, or what people perceive to be successful. Sammy, how did you do that? How did you go through this process? I'm not that successful, to Sammy's point, that I can't ask the question. Never be that person, because then you're never going to get to where you got to go. I'll be honest. I learned a lot today, especially in regards to my own music business. There are certain things that you assume with 3 minutes left that you're not going to be able to do just because, oh, well, this doesn't look like a gun shop, or this doesn't look like a marketing. I'm just a singer. No, all of a sudden she's spitting out all this stuff. I'm like, wait a minute, I can get money for my instruments. Wait, I can get money for my equipment. That don't got to come out of my pocket. I went into debt because I didn't have that knowledge. That's on
We
me.
didn't
Oh,
even get to
Steve.
talk about surplus property. Don't even get me
Okay,
started on that.
see. So we're gonna have a plus two. We're gonna have a
Yeah.
part two, because this is usually how it happens. Everybody comes into this not really knowing what it's going to be about. What's the
Yeah.
end game? What's the goal? And if you don't necessarily put one out there, you make it general in scope. Now the part two. Okay, how do I get this surplus? How do I find when a restaurant goes out of business? Where can I go to get that equipment so that I can start my own without having to pay
Yeah.
5 times the amount? Yeah, it goes beyond Amazon, y'all. So,
And so Steve, I would say, look, if there's a part two, everyone who took something away from today should be able to come back and say, hey, in between, this is
Yep.
what I did, right?
yes,
This is where I went. This is the step that I've taken, right? Because a lot of knowledge was dropped today. It's my day off. I gotta look all this stuff up now. But take something, grow with it right now, get a certification, reach out to someone, ask a question, get something you need before the next time. This was now the best part of my day.
Get
here we
certified,
go.
get capital. Let's go.
Would you say that? Say that again?
Get certified, get capital.
Yep.
There we go. And that's the other piece. And I'm thankful again. I didn't even have to ask for the parting shots. You each gave them because that's naturally what you do. That's why you're in the positions that you are. But yes, the homework assignment. You can watch this again on video. Take the notes down. Before you guys go, and we can put this in the chat too. We can put the emails in the chat. That way you can say, hey, Tanisha, I saw you on the Minority Business Network Colorful Conversation. This is what I do. Can you help me? That's what this is about. It's not just for about the here and the now. It's about how can we move people forward. So with 1 minute left, I just want to say thank you to everybody that participated in this. Obviously, you see the names on the screen. You can look them up on Google later. They got all types of accolades and stuff if they use their government name. But look them up, reach out to them. But most important, make sure to get out there in the world yourself. When you have a question, don't be afraid to ask the question. But a big takeaway, relationship, relationship, relationship. Get it before you need it.
I know LB didn't put a Gmail email address in the chat. I
did.
know
I just
he
He put
did.
hard knocks. He said hard
Hard
knocks.
knocks.
Hard
Bring
knocks
it back.
at
I'm just kidding.
Gmail.
I'm just
What are we
kidding.
It's
doing?
1:30.
I know.
See,
What are we
we're going to
doing
sign
here?
off now. This is what happens. I let them have conversation when we start rolling the credits.
It's a hard
MDNN,
knock life.
see, oh, God, see, and this is what happens. But this is the fun. So next time when we say we're having a colorful conversation, you'll know you need to tune in. At a minimum, I need to watch the recording on the West Hartford Chamber YouTube site. Anything else, Kate, before we launch out? Awesome. It's 1:30.
Yeah, I
Want to
think you
thank
guys wrapped it up. There was a ton of great information that you all shared with the community. Really excited that you guys all came out here today. I'm going to process this video and get it up on our YouTube channel ASAP. It's also been streaming on Facebook, so people can always go back and revisit that through our Facebook page as well. Just fantastic information from our panelists today. Very excited to have been a part of this conversation. So thank you to everybody.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you very much for Tanisha, for Sammy, for LB. My name is Stephen King Jr., the SKJ Experiment, along with a whole host of other things. See you tomorrow, everybody. Or maybe not. You know what I mean.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
you.
This is
Thank
when
you.
you're supposed to end it so that I can. Okay. That was the sign off. Didn't work like I wanted. All right.
Recording
You guys know what I
stopped.
mean.
I ended the stream. Now the recording.